Now, Russia has shot down a series of Ukrainian drones in two border regions. According to Moscow's defense ministry, 26 drones were shot over the Crimean Peninsula in just over 2 hours. As per officials, 6 of these drones that were targeting installations on Russian territory were brought down in the Kursk region. Moscow and its outskirts have also been targets of Ukrainian drone attacks. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron has said that he is still open to dialogue with his counterpart Vladimir Putin if it helps creating a sustainable peace between Ukraine and Russia.
Des propositions sérieuses, une volonté de réengager un dialogue qui permet de bâtir la paix respectueuse du droit international. La France sera toujours une puissance qui aidera et qui ne ménagera pas ses efforts pour obtenir un résultat. Voilà. Comme nous l'avons fait d'ailleurs durant toutes les années qui ont précédé le conflit, en étant une des puissances de médiation des accords de Minsk dans le format d'I-Normandie.
Macron and Putin enjoyed a good working relationship before Russia invaded its neighbor in 2022. Their diplomatic and personal links deteriorated badly as the war dragged on. Now, earlier this year, President Macron also weighed in on the possibility of kicking Putin out of France's highest Medal of Honor.
Meanwhile, the European leaders have pledged to find a way to provide aid to Ukraine after Hungary vetoed a $55 billion financial aid on Friday. 26 national leaders of the European Union, in fact, took a historic step of agreeing to start the accession negotiations of Ukraine to EU. But they were, of course, unable to go ahead following resistance from Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban to revamp the bloc's budget to Ukraine. The leaders will reconvene for an emergency meeting next year to try to settle for a deal, after intense discussions which took place at a 2-day meeting in Brussels. Towards the end of the summit, during a press conference, the French President Emmanuel Macron said that the Hungarian Prime Minister must not be allowed to take EU as hostage. He's also added that he believes that Orban will show some responsibility. After Hungary's Prime Minister abruptly left the room during the discussions of Ukraine's joining the European Union, reacting to the same, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that the action actually sends a strong signal towards the Kremlin. He also mentioned that he was confident that a formal agreement amongst EU states would be reached by January.
Now, as the political stage sets up for the upcoming elections in March, Russian President Vladimir Putin has declared a bold vision for his nation's future.
Absolutely, his words have been resonating all across Russia. Speaking at a conference of the ruling United Russia Party, Putin asserted his commitment to making Russia sovereign and self-sufficient.
In his first campaign speech, he accused Western powers of attempting to disrupt Russia's economic and political stability. This as he seeks to extend his rule until at least 2030, which would be possible only if he wins the March polls.
Я приветствую делегатов и гостей 21-го съезда «Важна». Мы вместе преодолевали испытания крупнейшей ведущей политической партии. Такой авторитет, а значит, все второстепенное, лишнее, то, что нас разъединяет в интересах нашей единой страны, нашего великого. И благодарю вас за поддержку. Спасибо большое.
Vladimir Putin is set to pursue a 5th term in the Kremlin as an independent candidate, with no real opposition to take his place. He has also received unanimous support from various leaders of his party. This includes the Russian Prime Minister along with other top officials.
Сомнений в том, кто должен стоять во главе российского государства в этот весьма сложный период. За кем историческая правда, справедливость и поддержка большинства. В марте 2024 года наша партия сделает все, чтобы безоговорочную победу снова одержал действующий президент России Владимир Владимирович Путин.
Earlier on Saturday, a group of over 700 politicians, sports and cultural figures met in Moscow, showcasing their support for Putin. They advocated for his independent candidacy. Now, as per reports, Putin is not representing a party in the upcoming polls, even though he has its full support.
Well, Turkey has become a powerhouse in the realm of energy, saving $2 billion by ramping up imports of discounted Russian oil. Despite Western sanctions, Ankara remained unfazed, even expressing interest in further collaboration with its eastern neighbor. Now, recent developments reveal Turkey's commitment to bolstering its energy portfolio. The Lukoil-Socar deal, allowing the refining of up to 200,000 barrels per day as Socar's Turkish Star refinery, has further solidified Turkey's position. Russian Urals crude oil shipments to Turkey hit an all-time high of 400,000 barrels per day in November 2023, constituting 14% of Russia's overall seaborne oil exports. Additionally, Turkey's imports of Russian diesel, heating oil, jet and marine fuel surged by 200% in January-November of 2023. The economic implications are substantial. Cheaper energy imports have significantly narrowed Turkey's trade deficit and alleviated pressure on its currency, which has devalued by 30% this year. Now, despite accusations of indirectly aiding Russia amid the Ukraine crisis, Turkey maintains its stance, attributing the success to exporting fuels refined from various crude sources. Meanwhile, discussions between Moscow and Ankara about establishing a hub for Russian gas in Turkey's signal a potential shift in regional energy dynamics, and Ankara's aspiration to become a major energy distribution hub for southern Europe.
Let's move on to other news now. And the External Affairs Minister of India, S. Jaishankar, will be visiting Russia this week. The diplomatic visit aims to strengthen strategic partnership between the two major economies of the world. The trip is expected to begin during the upcoming weekend and is anticipated to extend through Christmas. The visit will also involve Jaishankar reviewing agreements across various sectors, along with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. Some of these are defense, energy and trade, currency, connectivity initiatives and Indian investments in Russia. India and Russia are both key members of the international forums such as the United Nations, the G20, BRICS and the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They have consistently come together closely on global platforms. This year also witnessed a series of high-level visits from notable dignitaries from Moscow to India. These even coincided with India's presidency of the SCO and G20. The extensive engagement between the two nations spans beyond economic, scientific, technological and cultural cooperation. Moreover, the two nations uplifted their diplomatic relations with the inaugural 2+2 dialogue in December 2021. And for the very latest details on this visit, our diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibbal sent us this report.
The Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will be travelling to Russia by the end of this week. The last visit of the Indian External Affairs Minister to Russia was in November of 2022. We know that India-Russia relationship are seen as time-tested relationship with several pillars, whether it is defense, whether it is people-to-people relationship with many Indians travelling to Russia for medical education, or whether it's energy with India importing Russian crude oil. But there are concerns for New Delhi on the trade deficit front. But all in all, we know that there have been several high-level visits from Russia to India over past 1 year. Given that India was the president of the G20 and the SCO grouping, we saw the visit of the Russian foreign minister, the Russian defense minister and other high-level delegates. And now we will see the visit of the Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar that will bolster the strategic partnership between the two countries. With video journalist Sanjeev, Siddhant Sibbal for WION in New Delhi.
Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin is all set to hold talks with Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Beijing. The two countries have ramped up economic and diplomatic cooperation in recent years. Now, ties have grown closer since Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, despite Beijing's insistence that it is neutral in the conflict. According to the government of Russia, Mishustin was greeted upon arrival by Chinese Deputy Foreign Minister, Chinese Ambassador to Russia and Russian Ambassador to China. Chinese Foreign Ministry said Mishustin's visit is a part of a series of regular meetings with his counterpart Li Qiang. The Russian travelled to Shanghai and Beijing in May, where he met President Xi Jinping and signed a series of trade deals. His return to China comes 2 months after President Putin made a rare trip outside Russia to meet Xi Jinping, and a month after a senior Chinese general was hosted in Moscow.
The China-Russia relationship, it has seen major shifts since 1992. At the outset, China's population was greater than Russia's, and the two nations had very similar level of total GDP. Nowadays, China's economy is estimated to be up to 10 times bigger than Russia's. Similarly, trade with Russia is not of major importance to China in terms of value. However, the high share of raw materials, including food, in Russian exports and the transfer of Russian military technology are of strategic importance to China.
Since 2012, when Xi Jinping was first made General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, the relationship has evolved in the face of what both nations consider a rising threat from the West to their regimes. Analysts say Beijing's response to Ukraine war, referred to as pro-Russia neutrality, has so far been much closer to Moscow than it was in 2014 when Crimea was annexed. At the same time, developments since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 have increased Russia's dependency on China.